Now let's dig a bit deeper into the value chain perspective. It's something that we really love to talk about here at We Don't Have Time and at the Climate Hub. And the reason is that the magnitude of work that we need getting ahead is getting clearer by the day. And we need to achieve this by looking at companies around the world. We just had great examples here of companies pulling their load to transform their value chains profoundly to reach the net zero targets by 2030, to halve their emissions, by 2030. So again, my name is Katarina Rolfsdotter Jansson. I'm one of the hosts here at We Don't Have Time. And we're going to talk about practical examples and needs for success when it comes to value chain here, reinventing your value chains. And I have a great panel, just like the previous session here, to join us shortly. But first, it's my pleasure to introduce Louise Rehbinder from Exponential Roadmap Initiative. She's the director there, and she will share her perspective and set the scene. So please, Louise, join me, and the floor is yours.
And thank you, Katarina. And I have come across the value chain, the supply chain, in several different roles. I've been working with factories. I've been looking at warehouses. I've been looking at IT systems. And then I've been working in procurement, really digging deep into working with our suppliers and looking at materials. I come from big corp. I come from the telco industry. And when I talk about the value chain, and when I think about it, and when I think about how we can work with it, I get a little bit philosophical, which I like, because I think it's quite valuable. And we talk about the value chain, but to me, it's not really a value chain, because value chain would signify more of a company having a connection with a supplier who has connection with a supplier, but it's really more of a web, because one company can have maybe 30 suppliers or 5,000 or 50,000 suppliers or more. It's a huge network just there. But then imagining the customers of those companies as well. So it's a huge network all there. And it's kind of a tangled and massive web that we have to work with. And all of us, all the companies, the more than 300 million companies that we have in the world, we're all connected in one way or the other. There are business transactions going back and forth, and then we have this economical systems where we're all part of. And then we also have, which I also find really interesting, and that's the dimension of the person, people in the world. We have many, many people in the world, billions of people, and they're also connected to this economical system, to this value chain. Often, it's kind of forgotten that these companies are actually built up of these people that we also need to work with. We need to get these on board too. We need to get the people on board, and we need to get the companies on board. And making it more complex is that we have so many sectors that we're all tied to. And one company can be tied to, of course, many, many sectors just in the first connection that they have, the first tier that they have. And looking at that supply chain of that company that I'm thinking of now, the imaginary company, we have a lot of them that are very, very small, suppliers that are less than 500 people. Maybe in the world, there are 95% of the companies, the 300 million plus companies, are SMEs, small and medium-sized enterprises. And it looks the same for a company in their supply chain. So if you have, let's say, 50,000 suppliers, maybe 45, 40, I don't know, depending on what kind of sector you're in. But they're very, very small companies. So we have this vast spread of the type of companies that you have in this value chain. But seeing that we're all connected, it's good and it's kind of bad. It creates this complexity. But when you think about it, if you kind of pull a thread in this web, it's kind of heavy because you will get many of these actors along. When you're pulling this thread, you will get all the people and the companies that are tied to this, all the actors, the suppliers and partners and competitors, or whatever you want to call it. But it also creates these opportunities that we are connected, that we are tied together, because then you have this possibility of working together, collaborating, influencing, supporting each other, so that we can get these, open up for these possibilities when we work with R&D, we work with new materials, we work with circularity together with customers and with suppliers. We work and find these possibilities for renewable energy. And we work with the engagement of spreading this word of, okay, I, in the imaginary company, then I have a climate target. I should not expect anything else from my customers, my peers and partners, and my suppliers. Of course, it's not that easy. It's kind of complex, and we need to support each other, but it creates this huge possibility when we're kind of collaborating in this vast network of ours, making sure that we are heading in the same direction, moving towards the 1.5 degree ambition and halving emissions by 2030. And that was my philosophical way of setting the scene for this session. So hopefully we'll see some great examples in this panel. So I'm handing back now to Katarina, and thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Louise, for sharing your insights here, starting us out. And we have some great guests here. Sri from Head of Climate and Air Pollution at Inter IKEA Group, Rajagopal. You were in the previous panel, but we were happy to have you back, of course, with your expertise. And also Jennie Cato, you're here with us, from your Senior Vice President, Global Head of Public Affairs and Partnerships at Scania. Wonderful to see you here too. And last but not least, Elena Avesani, your Vice President of Sustainability Applications Strategy at Oracle. So with these great guests, we're going to dig a bit deeper into this. But first of all, a round of how what your company, your organization works with, and how you address the value chain perspective. So would you like to start from the Oracle perspective, please?
Sure. So Oracle is a technology company, $60 billion American giant. We are a leading cloud provider, largest database provider in the world, and our bread and butter is enterprise applications. So we're a data company. We serve more than 500,000 customers, talking about the web that Louise was mentioning. We work with more than 20,000 partners. So we look at how we can serve this wide network of companies and how we can support the companies in their journey. And probably most of the listeners and companies that are here at a certain point or another have used or are using Oracle's technology. But in terms of what our value chain is from a material impact perspective, that has changed considerably in the 40-plus years of Oracle's history. We were a pure software provider, and we became a hardware manufacturer when we acquired Sun Microsystems in 2008, and then now we are a cloud provider. So what is material today is our energy usage in our expanding data center footprint, our hardware supply chain, the use of materials, the use of the selection of suppliers. And that has changed how we look at sustainability substantially. And we can talk more about that later. So.
Well, thank you very much, Elena. Fiona, Scania, and being Swedish, I'm very well aware what Scania does, but maybe the global population needs to be enlightened a bit about Scania. Scania, how do you work and how you address the value chain perspective?
Yes, thank you. Well, we are a plus 130-year-old company, very well known in Sweden and also globally, I would say. We manufacture trucks and buses in the premium segment. And of course, this is not new to us. We have been developing the world's most fuel-efficient combustion engine for decades now. But of course, also recognizing we're part of the problem, we also need to be part of the solution. So since almost a decade, we have also taken on the challenge to drive the shift towards a sustainable transport system. And we do that mainly by going electric. And of course, in the combustion engine world, we have almost 97% of the emissions coming from scope 3, so when our products are in use. And that is also where we need to work a lot, talking about ecosystems and talking about value chains. But of course, going electric, more of the emission, the share of the emissions are also from the upstream. So we're now also targeting our supply chains and value chains within the 4 hotspots that accounts for over 80% of the emissions coming into the product, which are batteries, steel, cast iron, and aluminium. And we will go 100% green 2030 in these 4 hotspots.
That's a very strong goal.
Yes, so putting strong purchasing requirements on our suppliers. You have been also having a few of them on stage, I know, earlier with Stegra, etc. So
Stegra is supplying the steel that goes into
yes, exactly.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So Shri, you were just here in the previous panel, but maybe somebody's not watching sort of in any consequence here. So please tell us about how you at Inter IKEA work with your global supply chains.
Sure. IKEA is a global home furnishings company, and we take a full integrated value chain approach when it comes to climate action. So it's a total cradle-to-grave approch. So we work with our suppliers, we have our own operations, we have franchisee partners, and then the customers as well towards the end of the product lifecycle journey as such. 2/3 of our emissions are upstream, which happens in materials, manufacturing, transportation of the product, and then 1/3 of the emissions are downstream. For us, the biggest hotspots for emissions are materials first, almost 46%, materials and food ingredients, almost half of our total emissions as such. We also sell products which customers plug into their wall sockets, like microwaves, induction hobs, for example, LED light bulbs. That is the second biggest. And then we have the manufacturing facilities of our supplier partners, which we call production. That's 10% of our overall emissions. So materials and food ingredients, product use at home, and production, all 3 of these put together, it's around 80% of the emissions.
Thank you very much, Shri. Louise, would you like to add? I mean, you're not a company in this aspect, but the Exponential Roadmap, maybe tell us a little bit more about what you do, if you'd like.
Yes, of course. And we're more of a professional services type of company.
Exactly.
And
we are a company, but you're not producing goods.
No material like that. We do have our guides, though, which is one of the things that we do.
It's paper.
Paper,
and
yes.
digital.
And digital. But we are supporting companies to be better with working with reducing emissions in the value chain and outside as well. And we're producing guidance, finding best practices that we want to showcase, just like is being done here. And we have most of our emissions when it comes to the money we have in bank, because we're looking at that too, and also travel. So different.
Could you say that again, please? What the money in the bank?
Money that we have in bank that is generating emissions.
I heard you. I just wanted you to repeat it, because many companies might not address this as a emissions. And the COP that we're heading towards is, of course, named the finance COP. So this is it's an interesting topic. We'll probably get back to this. So Shri, in terms of, you mentioned your hotspots here, value chains perspective. So could you take us through how you're working with materials and energy, please, to reduce emissions and the value chain?
So if I talk about the energy part first, and then I'll focus on the manufacturing part. So almost 50% of some years ago, 50% of our energy was consumed as electricity, and then 50% was as application for heat. So it could be boilers or many other different type of assets which might be there which could produce heat. So then we started looking at electricity first, and then we started working with our suppliers to decarbonize that faster. And then we focused on 13 top countries, which constituted 90% of our overall electricity consumption. And we launched an electricity procurement program where we sort of bundle volumes of our suppliers, and then we go out in the market and facilitate RFQs. And then the solutions which are out there, our suppliers are free to contract with the vendors then. So they get access to prices which are much more cheaper because we bundle the volumes together. And many of our SMEs that we work with, they don't have the financial muscle to go and negotiate or get access to many of the instruments like PPAs. So we are making that possible for our suppliers. So through such initiatives, we have seen a rapid scale up of renewable electricity. And at the same time, we've also seen a scale down of fossil fuels. For example, coal, which used to be almost 15% of our overall energy consumption, that's now 7%. And by FY25, we had committed to completely phasing out the use of coal on site at our suppliers. So except for 3 suppliers where we have given an extension of 2 years, we will phase out coal from all the other suppliers. So that's on the production side.
That's very impressive. Just a follow-up question here, because this, of course, also affects the neighboring, the people living in this region that might all of a sudden they get access to clean energy, thanks to your work, correct?
I would rather say clean health as well.
Yeah, well, of course.
And of course, the suppliers, in a sense, they get access to the PPAs, which is possible for them. And then, of course, many more suppliers are welcome to join when it comes to a particular area where we are offering these solutions.
You're shedding the light on the possibilities of creating more clean energy. Excellent. Please continue with the materials.
On materials, innovations is incredibly important, and we need to have a long-term horizon. So we've harvested a lot of the low-hanging fruits right now. But when it comes to, and then we try to approach it from a portfolio perspective. Can we use less materials for the same function, safety, everything else remaining the same? Can we use less of the material, become more material efficient? Can we use better versions of the material, like high-strength steel, for example, rather than the traditional steel that we're using? One example I want to cite, which was a result of 10 years of innovation, was the introduction of bio-based glue. Glue is an innocuous material, but it was almost 5% of IKEA's emission. So by moving from fossil glue to bio-based glue, which was 30% reduction in the emission of the glue, we have started to, we introduced that for the first time in one of our Lithuanian factory, and now we are on a journey to scale that up. So we also, that shows the importance of also persevering. Some of it has long payback times as such. So some innovations might not be very cost effective in the short run, but one also needs to take a long-term horizon. Some we need to be smart by using material efficiency, reducing costs wherever possible, but some there will be a higher cost which we need to take into the products in some way.
Thank you for sharing this example with the glue, because you might think it's just a little thin glue. I mean, it's not a big piece of heavy material, but it's a product that is in so many products. So the devil could be in the details, right?
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Sri. So Jennie, in terms of your challenges at Scania and how you tackle them to reduce the emissions in the value chain, you touched a bit about your value chains here, but where do your major challenges lie and how do you work with them?
Yeah, so I mean, now when we are going into kind of the most deepest transformation that we've seen, I mean, going from like horse and carriage to combustion engine, and we're now in the same kind of paradigm shift. We need to work with the whole ecosystem, right? And because even if we are producing and manufacturing the battery electric trucks and provide them to the market, we also need the whole ecosystem around them to transform in the same pace. So that is a challenge for us at the moment, and we need to understand our customers better. We have always worked very close to our customers, but also our customer's customer, like IKEA and other transport buyers, because they are the ones driving the demand for these green transports. And that also means that for Scania, we need to involve and engage and invest also in businesses and new ventures outside of our core business.
Such as?
Such as, for example, charging infrastructure. So we have, since a few years back, we have a joint venture with our actually competitors, so Daimler and Volvo. Together we have a joint venture called Milans, where we aim to build 700 charging points in Europe. To start with, we also
that will be for the trucks, right?
For the heavy-duty vehicles,
Mm-hmm.
trucks, yes, because it's a totally different game, charging a passenger car and charging a truck. So, yes. And we also have a joint venture where we sell transport as a service, for example, to kind of ramp up the demand for the battery electric trucks. We need to help our customers to make this transition, and they need to have the business case straight, so to say. So that is a big challenge. And in order to do this, we also need the political kind of frameworks set right. So we need long-term stable conditions also for incentives, for example, for policies that kind of enables both us, our customers, and the transport buyers to make the right choices. And that is an immense challenge, I would say.
And you communicate this need to the politicians at hand, too, I assume?
All the time.
Yes, I just wanted you to say that, because I know you do, and many companies do. The consistency is key here in policies.
Exactly, because we invest long term. I mean, when we do these billion euro investments, they are for long term perspective. And the politicians and policymakers, they are very short term, actually.
4 years in general,
exactly.
Right? Yeah?
And that is a challenge for the industry.
Thank you, Jennie. So to turn to you, Elena, can you please highlight something that you are working with at Oracle right now in this field?
So the most important project we are currently focusing on is, in my division, and embedding sustainability capabilities in our portfolio of financial and supply chain management applications. So I was listening to Sri and Jennie talking about the type of transformation that they are implementing. And one of the key challenges we see talking to customers is that they don't have the right information at the right time when they're making financial planning or supply chain decisions. So the selection of a site or a material or a supplier that then determines whether you're achieving your goals, you're reducing your emission, you are minimizing your risk, is not in the ERP system. So it's often managed separately in Excel spreadsheets or niche solutions that don't tie back into supply chain and financial planning. So we're looking at how we can really make possible for the chief financial officer and the supply chain leadership team to have that information at the right time, so that the buyer, the commodity manager, the data scientist has that information available. And the goal is to make it easier to drive decision making, and also to get the process of managing that data in the right function, so the sustainability teams focus on strategy, on planning, on impact, instead of crunching numbers in Excel to figure out how to achieve goals.
So any key recommendations here for companies that listen to this, how they should think about management systems?
So my recommendation, and my sales team doesn't like me when I say that, is work with your ERP provider, right? So because you have to look at your current financial and supply chain management system, they should be the ones helping you, right? We are looking at how we can help our customers, and we're looking at making it easier for our install base to really make that leap forward. But if you run on SAP or Microsoft or ServiceNow, they are the ones that will help you, because that ultimately it's about leveraging the tools you have and really empowering your teams to use what they currently have. So that is my recommendation.
Any specific things you should tell your IT company that you work with to get there?
Three key things. Well, for cloud providers, transparency in how they're procuring energy. Transparency and guardrails on how they're leveraging AI in their applications, and support in innovating how you manage your sustainability programs within the portfolio of solutions you already have.
Thank you, Elena. This is a very interesting perspective. Thank you. So, Louise, any thoughts?
Yes, I have a reflection here.
Sure.
And see any fantastic stories and examples and best practice, really. But my reflection was for Elena. And it is the integration of sustainability into everyday business that you really need to have, whether it's Oracle or any other solution where you have a management system. But also then getting sustainability into something that is already there makes it so much easier to transfer to working with sustainability, or getting the sustainability glue into products that customers will already be buying. It's a little bit easier than maybe Jennie talking about. We need to set up new infrastructure, which takes a little bit more time. But when you have something and you kind of sneak in sustainability there, I find it fascinating.
So, Louise, let's look a bit about supplier engagement in general from the Exponential Roadmap Initiative's perspective. How can we enhance it?
Well, I think I've been working with supplier engagement, for quite some time, and it is about requesting your suppliers to also set 1.5 degree aligned targets, halving emissions, etc., etc. And this has really taken speed. There are so many organizations that are supporting companies, and there are so many companies that have started with this approach. And the more the merrier, really, because if we have more customers, if we take one tier, customers asking the same thing from suppliers, it will be so much easier for the suppliers to then take that step, because they won't have 10 different requests. So we create a much better momentum. So really, my tip there is, this is kind of an easy win to get a good fundament of sustainability in your customer or supplier value chain. So my tip there is really get started, don't get over enthusiastic. Because it can be hard if you start with 5,000, all of your suppliers at once, if you have qualitative work. But get going and scale your action if you haven't started. So basically now.
Yeah, but basically now. Thank you, Louise. So in general, don't get too enthusiastic. But on the other hand, Sri and also Jennie, the progress, what would you say is the best progress that can be made in the short term, if you look at the enthusiasm here, and in the long term? Would you like to start, Sri?
I think in the very short term, I would allude to the previous session, where it's an opportunity of time where we can have more ambitious NDCs from the government, and then private sector need to clearly demonstrate their intent and send demand signals through commitments aligned to the science of 1.5.
And we have a window now with the Summit of the Future
Exactly.
and the COP coming up.
Yes, by February 2025 is when countries are going to submit their plans. There is every opportunity to engage and influence governments to do the right thing. And then that, it's not only their part to play, we are here standing along with the governments to also do our own part. So that I see as something that needs to happen, and we need to have exponential pace of action between now and 2030. We really need to halve emissions, as science says. And then that means a lot of different things: removal of fossil fuel subsidies, scale up of circularity, everything that we touched upon in the previous session as well, scale up of regenerative agriculture, for example, more charging infrastructure. So all of these things can be enabled by policies, and I'm sure there will be a lot of uptake from the private sector as well for all of these solutions.
Fingers crossed, indeed. Well, thank you very much, Sri. So, Jennie, the short-term, the long-term perspective here from Scania?
Yeah, I mean, we have the solutions, we have the technical solutions. We already serial produce battery electric vehicles for both urban and regional use. But of course, also in different regions in the world, the progress is taking shorter or longer time.
It depends on policies also, of course.
Exactly, depending also on policies. So in Europe, for example, we have really, really hard regulation now, both on the passenger car side, but also on the heavy-duty vehicle side. So it's definitely going to happen, even if it's a little bit too slow as we see it right now. But I mean, still, this will happen in Europe due to legislation and due to other reasons. We have, I mean, relatively dense population in Europe. We have supply of fossil-free energy or electricity. We have also the functional road and infrastructure for electricity. But if we go to Brazil, for example, which is another big market for Scania, we don't have that road or electricity infrastructure. So there we need to work with other types of decarbonization strategies like biofuels, for example. So all of our engines are also compatible with 100% biofuels, and then we have to work with demand for that. So I think we need to also take different geographies and different parts of the world in different pace. That is, and also, as I said, I mean, even if we will succeed with our electrification strategy, there will still be the rolling fleet. I mean, the amount of vehicles on the streets will still be a lot of combustion engines. So they also need to decarbonize and go into biofuels and biogas.
And then we need the production, and that requires legislation, et cetera, et cetera. So that's where pressure from companies come in at play, of course. Thank you very much, Jennie. So, Elena, in terms of collaboration, let's all talk a little bit about this before the session ends. How do you collaborate to get this ball rolling quicker?
I think the best example I can give you is what the IT industry has done with the Responsible Business Alliance organization. That was founded back in 2009, and back then was aiming at creating a supplier code of conduct and a code of conduct for the IT industry in supply chains. That organization has grown exponentially and has driven how we look at our supply chain, not only from a human rights perspective, but also how we push for decarbonization, for responsible sourcing of minerals. And I think it's a larger concept that we need to explore, how in each sector there is almost a pre-competitive type of effort that needs to be implemented, right? So that the purchasing power of an entire industry can really drive change. And there is the theory of change that 20% of a sector can drive change across the entire vertical. And we had, as an organization, a fantastic experience in working with RBA over the years.
Thank you, Elena. So, Sri, do you have any success stories when it comes to working with stakeholders?
Sure, I think collaboration is key across internal stakeholders as well. The very reason why we got our net zero goals. So we went to the board 2 years ago with our net zero goals, which was then not accepted by the board because they wanted to see a concrete action plan, climate roadmaps or transition plans. And then we had to engage with a lot of collaboration across all parts of the value chain to see how are they going to decarbonize that part of the value chain. So it was totally owned by the business right from the very beginning, which gave faith to the management that, yes, the business stands behind it. This has worked up, bottoms up. So there is confidence in the plan, and we got the approval for our net zero goals. So that's internal collaboration. And then external collaboration as well. We work with a lot of like-minded companies, as in it's not a race to zero. It's not a race that we need to win. We need to collectively reach to a world which is within 1.5 degrees of warming as such. And then joining hands with like-minded companies is key. We have been partnering with many like-minded companies to, for example, in some specific geographies, sourcing renewable electricity together, so that we can have more volumes together, and then we can make it even more possible for our smaller suppliers to also have access to all of these. So there needs to be collaboration all across, internal as well as external collaborations as such.
Thank you. Great examples. So, Jennie, do you have any golden nuggets when it comes to stakeholder collaboration here?
Well, I was actually going to tell you a little bit about a good example with IKEA that we have just deployed, and that's actually together with IKEA and your local transport partner, calculated and created a electrified corridor between IKEA's manufacturing facility to the local port in Portugal. And that has taken some calculations, a lot of collaboration together to kind of see where should the charging stops be, what is the flows that
How
needs
long
to
a
be.
stretch is it?
I don't have the exact number, but it's, yeah, I mean, it doesn't really, I mean, it's kind of the calculation of the whole goods flow there. So I think that is a good example of how we work when we work together with customer and customer's customer to create these kind of good examples on how it can work out. So that we're very proud of that. And I started working in June this year, and I think we're now looking into France and Poland as well, together with you.
And if I can just add
Please
on to
do.
that, heavy duty trucks were one of the pain points, how to sort of really move towards electric trucks, but for heavy goods. And through this collaboration, we were able to achieve the solution for the pain point that we had. So it was not only with the direct supplier, but directly with Scania here in this example, which actually created a win-win for everyone involved in this whole journey.
Very encouraging examples. Thank you very much. So we're about to wrap up this session, but I have a final question to all of you. Brief answer, please. If you could wish for one thing that would make things go faster, what would that be, Louise? You start.
All right. Yeah, I think quick answer, celebrating successes, success stories, and just good examples like this one to really embrace and be transparent and, congratulate those that have done it.
So more celebration will speed up the process.
It will, yeah.
Thank you. Sri.
Global optimism.
Global optimism.
We see, we read the news daily, and it's easy to slip into disappointment. I think it's important that we keep the optimism on. The solutions are there. It's perseverance, ambition, which is needed, and the drive to make sure that we are at it. Every degree counts. Every 0.1 degree counts. So we need to do all that we can.
Thank you. It sort of resonates with what you said, Louise, in terms of celebration and optimism. Thank you. So, Jennie.
Bold and brave leadership, policy leadership. I think we see it in the industry in general, at Scania specifically, but I think we need it also on the policy side that holds the line. I mean, there is no turning back. We can't back into the future.
Thank you very much, Jennie. But so also backing as a company with transportation. I mean, you know what you're talking about. You go forward most of the time, not backwards, right? So we need no backing. Thank you, Jennie. So Elena.
Last one. Tying what she's saying, changing the incentive within our economic system from short-term to long-term vision, which requires policy leadership.
Excellent. And I'm looking at the clock here, and I see I actually have room for one more quick one. Call to action. Does anybody want to share a really strong call to action? It's been sort of, yours was a call to action, and actually, Jennie, in terms of stronger leadership. But yeah, go ahead, Louise.
There are no excuses, really. I have been working with a lot of different companies, different parts of the value chain, and there are no real excuses not to start. I've heard so many, but when it comes to supplier engagement or when it comes to putting a plan together for looking at renewable energy, and yes, it's difficult, but it has been done. There is support. You will be able to move forward, even if it's baby steps. You are able to do something, and for that, very often you do need to have management support, which is utterly just very, very important, not only when you start, but all the way through. So that's kind of getting started, ensuring that you have support, and you will get somewhere. Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else? We have one more minute.
Never take
Elena.
no for an answer.
Never take no for an answer. I think that's a great one to end this, then finish this with. Never take it no for an answer. And It's been fantastic talking to you all here on stage at the Climate Hub in New York. And we're counting on your relentless work. The world needs companies like yours to push, and your organizations like Exponential Roadmap Initiative to get things going. So again, thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.